Joining us now is Florida Panthers digital reporter and also Bally Sports in-game reporter for some select broadcasts for the Florida Panthers, Katie Gaus. Katie, how are you? And thank you so much for coming on here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk about the upcoming season. We've got a lot of good things going on down here in South Florida, so I'm always looking to spread the word about what to expect from this Cats team this season.
It's really wild, Katie, because all of a sudden the Florida Panthers came out as a team just a couple of years ago that, you know, they could not fill the stands in BB&T Arena down in Sunrise, and all of a sudden now they're getting guys like Joe Thornton to come in and you know, really play for this team and really for Coach Q. Entering his third season, talk about a little bit of maybe a little, just kind of like a little outlook for the 21-22 season for, you know, this upcoming year for the Panthers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly the transformation has come quickly, but the pieces that have made it what it is now have been there for the last, you know, almost 8 years, I guess, essentially, when you start looking at when that core group started. Aaron Ekblad, Jonathan Huberdeau, Sasha Barkov, you know, they have been around, and it's just been finding the right support, the right balance, and it seems like we have finally got it. We have a really exciting team this year, and the best part is that they've got that full season almost all together under their belt. We only had one new guy really joining, as opposed to last season where it was basically half the team was new and we were trying to figure out chemistry and learn systems. Everybody's more comfortable with Coach Q now, entering his third season, like you mentioned. So there's just a lot of consistency. I would say we're already kind of one step ahead of maybe the rest of the game in terms of how we're going to look on opening night, just based on that familiarity between the players, the chemistry. I mean, you look at our top two lines, you know, you've got Barkov centering Reinhart and Verhaeghe, Bennett centering Huberdeau and Tippett. I mean, that's a pretty solid top six, and we've already started to see some of the excitement they can generate. The power play is going to be outstanding. Aaron Ekblad, obviously a huge piece of this team, going down with that injury, to have him back and healthy and ready and feeling better than ever, according to him. It just tells you a lot about, you know, what this team, you know, is going to be building off of. They had a taste of the playoffs. They're so hungry for more. You know, they've always been maybe under the radar, and now they're finally getting a little bit of attention, but I think they still enter every season with a bit of an underdog mentality, which I think is the best place to be. So there's going to be a lot of excitement, and it's an 82-game season. We're back to the normal divisions. There's going to be a lot of good matchups, a lot of good games, and it's a haul. You know, you got to stay healthy. You got to get lucky, but they certainly have the pieces in place to go the distance from the looks of it right now.
Yeah, it's really wild. And, you know, first off, on Thursday, you guys open up against your hometown Pittsburgh Penguins as well. And, you know, first I want to ask you this, just because, you know, kind of go off a little you know, just off topic for a quick second. But, you know, now that your hometown Penguins are coming in, what does that feel like for you that, you know, not only you get to see the Penguins, you know, down by Sunrise, obviously, but also what about this Florida team that maybe they can finally get over this Pittsburgh team without the likes of Malkin, without the likes of Crosby as well for the first few weeks of the season?
The way I kind of feel about it is, you know, I'm all in on the Cats. So when I play my hometown team, it's a little bit of extra sweetness to beat them. And we've actually had some pretty good success. My very first season here, we won in Pittsburgh for the first time in a while. So I like to say that maybe I had a little bit to do with that. Who knows? But it certainly is fun. It's exciting. And like you mentioned, the Penguins, you know, they're coming into this series without Malkin or Crosby, which certainly those are huge parts of their team. But they, you know, they still have talent. They still are hungry. And I think every team wants to start the season strong. I think that's, you know, if you ask Coach, what are you focusing on? A strong start. I mean, I think you're going to get that from just about anybody. So it's not like it's not certainly like they're going to be, you know, coming into this matchup, you know, not working their hardest. We certainly will be. They'll be coming off a matchup with the Tampa Bay Lightning, the back-to-back champs. So, you know, they're getting a good tune-up for game one, and we won't have played yet. So we'll have to definitely be ready to go. We're getting that little bit of a later start than some teams because we don't kick off until Thursday. But no, I mean, certainly a ton of excitement. Like I said before we even kick this call up, it feels like the long preseason. We're ready to go. The guys are ready to go. We're ready to make it count. And I think you're going to see that as soon as they hit the ice on Thursday.
I love it. I'm just getting the chills thinking about it, especially because tomorrow's opening night. Really amazing stuff. DeLuca, go ahead.
Yeah, Katie, so like you said, the season opens up for the Panthers on Thursday. We're recording this on a Monday, so today was roster release day. I have not seen the Panthers one on Twitter just yet, but are there any surprises there that may have made like a surprise player that made the team out of camp, or is everything kind of status quo? And what do you see going forward here to start the season?
Yeah, no, everything is status quo. Unfortunately, like every team deals with, we did have a few injuries throughout our camp. So there are guys that are still in the mix that maybe ultimately will end up going down to the AHL that are here right now. Some guys that are kind of bouncing in and out of that fourth line. But defensively, we've got, our 7D set. Kevin Connaughton, kind of the surprise coming out of camp. He'll be looking like he may actually slot into that final spot, the 6th spot between him and Marcus Nudavara. But no, offensively, we've had Achari got banged up. We've had, Marchment is working his way back into the mix. He was skating today. So of course, you kind of have to account for those. But right now we're ready to roll. Depth is certainly not an issue with this team. So there really weren't any, last minute signings or any, crazy PTOs that we were worrying about. We kind of had our core group and our set team ready to go. And it was just finishing off those final touches. And the exciting one coming into this season will be Anton Lundell making his NHL regular season debut. Yes. Looks like he'll be slotting in on that third line center. And from what we've seen, everyone's excited. He has some really incredible hockey IQ, great strength on the puck. He's played with men before coming over from Liga. So really looking forward to seeing that first pick making an impact this season.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, DeLuca. Sorry.
So yeah, I really like the Panthers this season. I think they're going to be a top team, one of the top teams in the Atlantic. They've been building for a while. I think it's going to be a good year offensively for the Panthers. There's going to be a lot to cheer about in the BBT Center. So, but let's look in the crease for a little bit. How big of a workload is Sergei Bobrovsky going to have this season, and how important may someone like Spencer Knight be to the Panthers for this year?
Well, absolutely. I mean, first thing we know is that in an 82-game season, you need to be able to play more than one goalie. But at the end of the day, coach has already said it, it's Bob's net. We're not really, going to, designate certain numbers or assign a specific workload to either guy. We've always been in a situation, just like even with Drieger last season, where, if the backup is pushing, if he's challenging, if he's playing well, if he's hot, and he's in net. At the same time, Bob, he has proven himself time and time again. It's certainly someone that we believe in, someone that we want to see succeeding. He just had a baby actually, which is why he missed some preseason games. So we're all joking that, Dad Bob is going to be on another level this year. We're really excited for him. But no, I mean, Spencer Knight is a world-class talent. There's no question. And as you get through the season and the games get longer, and as we all know, anything can happen, you're going to need more than one guy. Sometimes you end up needing 2 and 3 guys. So of course, especially with the eyes on the postseason, knowing that we need to, be able to have, more than one guy that can be ready to go and play at an elite level. I think we're kind of blessed in the sense that we certainly have options, especially between the pipes.
So now the next thing I want to go to here, Katie, is obviously Sasha Barkov and his massive deal that he just signed, 8 years, $85 million. And we look around the NHL, and obviously up here in New York, we just saw Mika Zibanejad just sign a massive deal as well. And that was actually just a couple of days, or rather a day after Sasha Barkov signed that deal. Now that all of the, that their captain is locked up, everything is good to go. Any higher expectations, obviously, obviously Stanley Cup for,
sure,
obvious reasons. But, what do you see happening now that all the contract stuff is behind him and now we can finally move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of the nicest thing about all of this is that even though the contract was kind of looming and approaching, you never really heard about it. You never really worried about it. And it was never an issue. I mean, there was just always this understanding between Barkov and the management. Like, they knew how valuable he was, but it was also he was very happy and expressed that very clearly. There was not necessarily ever some, tension or desire, expressed from him to leave. He is the cornerstone of this team. He has been for a long time, and now he will continue to be. I think the excitement is that, this is a commitment from him, which will ultimately likely lead to a commitment from other members of that core group. Whether it be, this year or the next few years, we've got obviously, Huberdeau, Ekblad, those guys will eventually be, having to re-sign as well. But the biggest thing that stands out that we kind of all talked about is it just starts to show you that this truly is a destination. Jumbo Joe choosing it, destination. Barkov not wanting to test the free agency market come next July. That shows that Florida is a place that he wants to be, and he's excited about staying. And it makes us look, like, okay, something good is going on in South Florida if he's not willing to even worry about free agency. He just joked and said, my people will talk to their people and they'll get it done. And that's who he is. He's such a calm guy. He's a leader, and he doesn't necessarily seek out opportunities to make himself better. He wants to look within and make the team better right here where he has it in South Florida.
Katie, March 28th against Dallas was a date that Florida Panthers fans do not ever want to relive, do not ever want to think about. And I know that the moment I said that date, you knew exactly what I was talking about. Aaron Ekblad breaking his leg. And he obviously missed the remainder of the season. He's back now. What have we seen in camp from him following this recovery process?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just a cliche. He literally looks better than ever. He truly worked so hard over the summer. He took his training and his rehab to another level, partially because there was still that, what if I can get myself better for the playoffs? Like, say we did, make a long run. He was thinking playoffs. So he was pushing and speeding that process in the right ways, but pushing for that process and pushing for that, recovery, full speed. So he was already getting to a point where he was close when the playoffs hit. Obviously, we had the first round exit we don't want, but he's ahead of the game at that point. So then he takes the entire summer to just build on that. He came into camp saying he was 99.99999. He said, I don't know how many nines you want me to say, but I'll keep saying them because that's how good he felt. His conditioning is something that stands out every season. The guy puts on more minutes a game than anybody on the team by a long shot. So certainly just to see him back at camp, even in those preseason games, getting in the overtime, putting himself out on the ice just at that same level right away, it's a great sign. And I think just seeing him out there, it inspires so much confidence and so much, excitement from the players around him, seeing how hard he works. And Mackenzie Weegar, he stepped up in a huge way last season before the injury, and then even more so after the injury to Ekblad. So to have those two back on that top line together, both ready to roll, is certainly a good place to be from a blue line perspective.
Yeah, and also we got to see, obviously, what Mackenzie Weegar was able to do in the Toronto bubble as well against the Islanders. We heard his name constantly during that playoff series. Also, my last question here, just before we get to DeLuca once again, Carter Verhaeghe was he was a part of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we all know how, you can't keep everybody. You eventually have to trade certain guys over, but he also needed a fresh start. And now he got a lucrative contract that I believe begins next season. Yeah. 3 years, $4.166667, thanks to our good friends at Cap Friendly. What does he bring to this team in South Florida as opposed to in Tampa that really is clicking for him, and obviously that earned him this contract?
Yeah, I think really it was just a matter of opportunity and the difference in opportunity, getting a chance to put, top line minutes on a player who appeared to have the skill, especially at the AHL level when he was getting that, top line time up there. I mean, he led the league in points. He was outstanding. Then you get to a Tampa team that's just loaded with talent. He was backlogged. He was just kind of, stuck. So, everyone has to move, when there's just, so much money to go around. Florida saw a really good opportunity, having been familiar with, obviously, Tampa. We play them, it feels like, more than anyone, so we knew him well. He came here and just basically did what he kind of had shown small snippets of already. We had already sort of seen, glances of what this talent looked like. But then to be here, getting top-line minutes, and, of course, I think we see it with teams all around the league. It never hurts to be playing on a top line with a star player like Barkov. You know, you see it with players in every team. You know, the Jake Gensel emerged during his time with Crosby. I mean, everyone gets to take their game to another level when they're playing with someone on that level. And Verhaeghe always just jokes with us that, you know, playing with Barkov, you just have to be ready because he'll look like he's not going to pass it. And the next thing you know, the puck's on your stick. So it's just about being ready, but certainly not to take away from him. You know, and it's not just playing with Barkov. He has a ton of skill. He's a very versatile player. He plays with speed, has great vision. I think it was just the matter of getting the opportunity. And like you mentioned, you know, he still has one more year on his initial contract, right, but didn't want to waste any time. He said, sign me up, extend it. And so we're certainly happy to have him locked in for the foreseeable future as well. Amazing stuff. DeLuca, please.
Okay. Katie, so today the Panthers actually did something. There was a trade in the National Hockey League involving the Florida Panthers and the Vancouver Canucks. Yes. So the Panthers got Olli Juolevi from the Vancouver Canucks and sent Noah Juulsen and Juho Lammikko over to Vancouver. Let's talk about what did the Panthers exactly see with Juolevi that they like and that they're hoping he can bring to the Panthers this season?
Yeah, you know what? I think he sort of inspires the same kind of feeling that Bill Zito has shown with a lot of guys, bringing in a guy like Montour, bringing in a guy like Bennett. There's potential that maybe just has dampered, just wasn't fitting in with the right system. Juolevi just, you know, he was originally a very high pick that just never seemed to find his footing in the Vancouver system. And I mean, I think we all know that there are times where a change of scenery can truly change everything for a player. Sam Bennett is a great example. Coming in last year, he had, I want to say it was like 13 points in the entire 38 games or something that he had played with Calgary. And he came in, he had, I want to say 15 points in like 5 games, something ridiculous, 8 games with us. I mean, it just was a clear change and just an immediately like a light bulb moment that, you know, in this new scenery with this renewed confidence and, you know, somebody wants me, somebody's willing to take a chance on me, whatever it may be, we've seen it happen all over. And I believe that, you know, with Kevin Connaughton getting a little banged up, he's about 1 or 2 weeks so far. We're waiting to hear more on that from Q, but there was a need for, you know, that potential extra defense. And so, you know, giving up Lammikko and Juulsen, both players who, I mean, especially Lammikko had been in the system for a while, you know, very well liked. But at the end of the day, probably looking at being in the AHL. Same thing with Juulsen. You know, we got him from Montreal. He was a very good talent with them. Just, you know, injuries, bad luck, whatever it may be. You know, just there wasn't really the opportunity here, and he just didn't get to shine maybe the way they were originally hoping. So, you know, when you look at what the potential is with this trade, I think the Panthers are in a good spot. I think they win out ultimately, and it'll just be another, you know, good depth position, you know, if nothing else. You know, low risk, high reward, so to speak.
Katie, you brought that up just a few moments ago also about the depth. Really amazing stuff. DeLuca, did you have another one? I'm sorry.
No problem at all, of course. So Katie, looking at Cap Friendly here, and it looks, speaking of trades, obviously back in July, the Panthers traded away a couple of their draft picks. So as of right now in 2022, they don't draft until round 3. So how important? I mean, well, the first round pick is conditional. It's top 10 protected. The Panthers are obviously not going to finish in the top 10 of draft picks. Everyone knows that. So how important is it for the Panthers to get over that first round hump and make kind of a deep playoff run this year? Because with the draft not being until round 3, until round 3 for the Panthers, barring another trade, it's important to make a deep playoff run. So what do they have to do to come over this obstacle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, essentially when you look at the trading of prospects and you look at the trading of draft picks and knowing that you're getting into those later rounds, it honestly just suggests, okay, well, we're pushing all the chips forward. You know, this is us going for it, so to speak. Not necessarily saying we're spending all the way to the cap, but when you're giving up, you know, future opportunities for players, you are focusing on the here and now. And I think that's pretty clear with every move that's been made, is that, you know, there is a serious pressure to perform. And there's lots of teams throughout the league that are feeling that pressure coming into this season. One of them is in our division, and it's Toronto. So there's certainly, you know, that buy-in that this is it. This team, you know, has the core. It has the familiarity. You know, it had the success last season that got cut short by the ultimate Stanley Cup champions, who we do truly feel like we gave, and I know people like to chirp us about this, but we do feel that we gave them the best series. We didn't go 7 games, but when you break down each game, it certainly 100%. Suggests that. So, you know, even Q said, you know, you go back and you watch it and then you see what they did and you think to yourself, hey, yeah, I mean, we were right there. I mean, you really were. So, you know, there's a ton of confidence heading into that, but the postseason is another beast. There's so much that needs to happen and needs to go right just to get there. They feel confident getting there. When you look at the Atlantic Division, there's a pretty clear difference between the top 4 and the bottom 4. Not to say the teams can't surprise you, but we shouldn't have a problem getting to that point. But once you're there, you still need things to go right. I just feel that this team has the hunger, but they also have the chemistry. And truthfully, I think about this all the time. When you look back on teams that win the Cup, seems like they really are having a good time. Like they really like each other. A lot of the times you see that, like that love, and there's always that one, you know, maybe a unifying moment or that one player that makes a difference. I think we've got all those pieces now. We've got the strong players, the talented players, the core players. We've also got the guys like Patrick Hornquist that are going to go out there and absolutely kill themselves on the ice and inspire players to run through brick walls. You've got Jumbo in the locker room, his veteran presence. I mean, there's so many things. And then, of course, the experience of Joel Quenneville coaching. He, in my opinion, is one of the best in-game coaches in terms of his ability to make adjustments, make switches, manage the game. So it's just a variety of things that, you know, look great heading into the season. And if they all go the way they're supposed to, then we should be in a really good spot.
So now that obviously I was too busy interrupting DeLuca before, Katie, you alluded to earlier about how South Florida could possibly become or has become a free agent destination. You brought up the fact about Jumbo Joe Thornton and how Joe decided to go home last year in Toronto. Did not work out, obviously. Another first-round exit. Amazing here as an Islanders fan. Thank you. But you know, all joking aside, though, I look at what Joe can really bring to the locker room, and what has he brought to training camp so far that you see early on that really can propel this team beyond the first round of the Cup playoffs?
Yeah, well, for one, just him choosing Florida in general already fills the group and has inspired the group. And we've talked to multiple guys and they've all said the same thing. You know, he wants to be here. Patrick Hornquist actually had a great quote. He said something along the lines of, you know, him wanting to be here means that he wants to win. It puts pressure on me. And I like having pressure on me. I respond to that. I want to win and I like having pressure to win. But everyone just sort of was filled with this, you know, okay, this is no joke. This guy is, I mean, we're getting down to it, right? There's just no two ways about it. He's entering his 24th season. Clearly, you know, it's all or nothing for him right now. And for him to choose this team, and he talked about how much he liked the way they looked in the playoffs and how much he liked their style and their grit. That is one element of it. The second element of it is just Jumbo himself and who he is, which is the happiest, most just – he just brings such an appreciation for the game and such a different perspective. He genuinely is like a kid coming into the rink. He's the oldest veteran by a long shot, but when he comes into the rink every day, it's like he loves it. It's an infectious passion for hockey, appreciation for being here, for playing the game. And I think it just gives guys some perspective because it's easy to just get so wrapped up in a season, and it's a long season when it all comes down to it. So to be able to just see a guy who's walking into the rink covered in ice bags or whatever's broken, you know, he's still just so happy to be there. And I think it really gives the guys a good perspective and keeps the room light. I mean, you know, you always need that balance of super intense guys and the guys that prove it on the ice, and then just the guys that make people feel better. And he certainly provides just a really nice, you know, presence in the room for just keeping things simple, you know, not overthinking it, and just, you know, the experience is great. I mean, we all joke, Spencer Knight was 4 years from being born when Jumbo was drafted in the NHL. Joel Quenneville was entering his first season as a head coach with St. Louis when he was just being drafted. So, I mean, there's so many fun experiences that he brings and just some really unique stories. So we are really excited to have him in the group.
That's really amazing. And My last question before we wrap things up here with Rob DeLuca and his Atlantic Division prediction, as always, with all of our guests. Katie, we look at Brandon Montour, and also want to look at also Sam Reinhart as well, who came from both in Buffalo, and Buffalo, as we know, is a legitimate disaster, a place where it's there is no hope right now. So you brought up earlier about how change of scenery for Carter Verhaeghe has done him wonders. And we got to see, obviously, in the final, I think it was 12 or 13 games that Montour, when he was traded, he played in a Cats uniform. But now he has a brand new contract for the next 3 years down in South Florida. So at one point, he was obviously drafted in Anaheim. He played there for a while with the likes of Cam Fowler and Hampus Lindholm and the rest of them. But now could we see this, I guess, born-again Brandon Montour for, like what he was back in Anaheim? Have you seen that early on in training camp?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other nice thing about Montour, we even talked to him about it. Like you said, it's hard getting traded when you're in the middle of the season. I think any guy, given the choice, would prefer to do it during the off season instead of just packing up, running out, and just jumping on a flight. He didn't get to necessarily ease into the situation. He was thrown into the fire. And for that, we feel he performed really well. But there's also the chemistry factor. There's also the getting comfortable with the systems, learning what Q does, because every coach is going to do things differently. And he's already talked about how just his excitement level for this season, coming into it with, experience, knowing just even a little bit more about it and feeling like he had the whole summer to, get more comfortable with all the guys in the group, has been great. And it's shown he's actually looking like, at least at this point from what we've seen in practice, that he'll be running that second power play. We've had him sort of slotted out there as that point D, kind of controlling it and quarterbacking the second power play. So for a guy to be coming from Buffalo to then coming into a second power play opportunity, everyone wants to be on special teams, right? That's where the points come. That's where the magic happens. Right. And we have a really solid 2 units this season. So I think you'll see a lot of good things from him. He has a real natural knack for driving the play, transitioning, and, kind of finding his way into the offensive rush. He's very offensive minded, but still responsible enough on defense. So, I think there's a lot of really good opportunity for him. And, like you said, both guys coming in from Buffalo, being in situations where things were a little bit bleak, to say the least. Sam Reinhart, despite all of that, has put up, 20 plus goal seasons for the last 6 years, I believe, on a team where there wasn't a whole lot of support. Even last season, doing it a lot of the time without Jack Eichel, who was out with injury. So we expect that if he doesn't score 30 goals this season, that you'll be surprised. It would be a disappointment. I think he has a real opportunity to lead this team in goals, given his skill. It'll certainly be close between him and Huberdeau, with Barkov beating them and them both being on that top power play. Going to be a lot of goals to go around. He's going to be having fun.
Oh, yeah. And he had a career worst he had a -28 in his plus-minus rating. That was completely brutal. But hopefully in Florida, I expect to see some, pluses, especially for him. Now I think, and that was one more thing I wanted to comment on was that I think personally, and DeLuca, and as well you, Katie, you can probably, agree or disagree with me, but one of the best again, in terms of right-handed defensemen, I would say one of the best from top all the way to the bottom with Weegar, Ekblad, and Montour. I don't know. That's pretty good stuff there.
Yeah, we're certainly lucky. And Gustav Forsling is another sort of like forgotten name that we picked up on waivers last year. Turned out
one
to be
Coach Q's guys from Chicago.
Yes, he had some familiarity with him there, but really just sort of came into his own. And it's a combination of timing and coming into that prime with your own career and also being in the right environment. But certainly, things have been going a lot better for us on the back end.
Yeah, and to have 3 or even 4 quality right-handed defensemen and right shooting defensemen, those are just as scarce as cars these days. DeLuca.
It is.
Katie, this has been so much fun having you on. It's been a blast. But I've done this with every one of our guests. It's just kind of a what do you think for the Panthers,
if you will?
I know.
Yeah. What do you think for the Panthers? How are they going to play out? Where in the top 4? Because let's be serious. That's where they're going to end up, barring some sort of catastrophe, which isn't going to happen.
So crossed, right?
nonetheless, where do the Panthers end up, and how much damage can they do in the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's almost it's a no-win situation for me, because I either say that they're going to be first and I look like a homer, or I don't say that and then everyone down here is mad at me. But I genuinely do feel like the battle for that top spot in the Atlantic will be between us and Toronto, and I've already sort of seen that being discussed. I feel very confident that this team has all the power to put up major points. I think the biggest element that is going to lead to our success is going to come on the defensive side. Can we keep pucks out of the net? Can we control the puck, more than we have in past seasons? Can we limit those mistakes and really just play the team game that we saw so much success with last season? I feel that offensively, we're going to have no issues. So it's really going to come down to defense, and defense is what wins championships, as they say, but it's certainly going to be important. Goaltending as well. Just knowing that we have Spencer Knight sort of waiting, in the wings should things go awry, which we don't really feel they will. But, I mean, we're in a good situation there. So, the sky is the limit. And once you get into the postseason, I think it comes down to a little bit of puck luck, a little bit of luck on the injury, in the injury bug world. And then also just that gritty play that I think we demonstrated we do have based on that Tampa series. We've got guys that are willing to hit. We've got guys that are willing to, scrum it up a bit. We really know how to play a little bit more of a playoff style than we've seen from this team in years past. And that's really ultimately what it comes down to in the postseason, is knowing how to play postseason hockey. I think we've got that now. I think we know what it takes. And, barring the Stanley Cup champs getting in our way, I think we're going to definitely going to have to battle with Tampa again. But the Battle of Florida, I think we're coming out on top. And then I think we're taking names for the rest of the league as well. So we'll see.
I could tell you this, is that as an Islanders fan, I'm pretty scared to battle you guys on Saturday. That is for sure, because we
got a tough schedule to start the year too. My goodness. We got we've got you guys in the Islanders. We've got Colorado coming down here. We go to Boston twice in 4 days. I mean, it's not going to be an easy start, but I guess that's the best way to get it rolling, right?
There's no doubt about it, and that is how you build champs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Florida Panthers digital reporter and Bally Sports in-game reporter for select Panthers games, Katie Gaus. Katie, thank you so much for coming on here. And also, you have officially broken the gender barrier for our podcast, the Primetime Right Now. You are the first female that has
joined. It.
And the best part is that our second co-host, Ian Schreier, who we've been trying to get him on here and you on here at the same time, he bailed on us. So that's his loss.
It's all his fault.
Katie, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.